Oh yeah, camo shirt's back because I made a camo soap today, which would be fine, except that's not what I was planning to make. But before we get into how much I screwed up today's soap, hi, I'm Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for 365 days of soap. And today is day 49. Today, we are making an avocado fruit puree soap. Now, I'm actually showing you two versions of this because the original one that I filmed, I lost the footage. And so I thought, hey, let's do it again and see if I screwed up twice and actually changed the way that I, incorporate the avocado puree into the batch. And yeah, no, neither one went according to plan. So let's go watch that, I guess. Okay, so we need some backstory to this. First thing, we are making an avocado soap. And I actually already made this, and then I lost the video. And I'll show you the first bar and what it looked like. And it was a disaster. But I thought it could be cool to show what sort of happens when you incorporate the avocado puree into your soap batter after it's reached emulsification. And it worked, but it didn't work for the pour that I was doing. Anyway, I decided to re-record and do a new batch of soap, and this time, instead of putting the avocado puree into the soap batter, which thickened it immediately, and it was a big, disastrous, crazy mess, to freeze it and use it like I would a beer or a wine and see what we get with that. And in theory it could work, right? Because you can do this with a number of fruit purees, really, and actually freeze the puree itself and then use it in place of your water, rather, and put the lye on top of it and allow the heat of that exothermic reaction to melt the cubes and create the appropriate lye solution. And so I'm thinking, well, for an avocado puree, maybe that could work too. I've never done it. I've never seen it done. And I'm thinking the biggest problem is going to be avocado is a very fatty fruit, right? Like, it's very fatty. So you're going to be adding extra, fat essentially to your soaps. So I took that into consideration when I formulated the recipe. And this soap, as a result, is formulated at about a 10% super fat, which is cool. I love, really super fatted soaps, but I still don't really know what the whole thing is going to look like when it's all said and done. The lye water, obviously, it got darker because we have, the avocado in it instead of distilled water. But the actual performance of the soap itself, adding all the extra fatty acids to the waters, essentially, instead of into the oils, could be a challenge. So we're going to see what that does. Now, because we used the frozen ice cubes, or avocado puree cubes rather, for this, you don't really have to wait too terribly long for it to cool down, because it doesn't heat up past about, I'd say 150 degrees or so, which is good. So we will be soaping this at about 100 degrees when it's all said and done. My oil's there. We obviously have avocado oil in this because it is an avocado themed bar. But look at that. Like, look at the chunks. I decided to go ahead and strain it for this because there were a lot of chunks sitting in the on the top of the lye solution. And so I'm going to strain it before putting it into the oils. But then as soon as I did that and I saw just how many chunks were in there, I got a little nervous and I decided that, well, if there are a lot of chunks in there, then maybe there is, there's lye in there too. And this recipe is formulated to, essentially the amount of lye that's in there is needed to saponify all of the fatty acid chains that exist within the oils that I've selected for this batch. And so I decided to go ahead and try to press as much of it through the actual strainer as I could and reduce, some of the chunks. And so that is what I'm doing right now here with this, that I super sped up because this took a really long time to press this through the strainer. Like, it wasn't fun. And I eventually just got bored and stopped and thought, hey, the first soap was a fail and I was ready to roll with it and show you, what happened when I failed. So maybe showing you, the frozen avocado puree soap will also be a fail and you can learn for your, soaping endeavors. And so what I'm doing here is I am working it to emulsification and hoping that I got enough of the lye out of the chunks that existed there. And, logically there shouldn't be any chunks that existed, or there shouldn't be any lye that existed within the chunks, right? Because like the fat is going to rise and it was a well-mixed lye solution anyway. And so the fat was rising at the top. So that's probably what I'm working with. So likely the lye solution is completely fine, but I, was a bit nervous with this entire process, not knowing really what to expect with any of it. And so far so good. It's looking pretty good, and I'm at emulsification at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and pour off for all of my different colors. Now, the goal with this guy was to make it look like an avocado with a specific pour. Okay, so I don't know if you're aware. If you're a soap maker, you're definitely aware, but there is a soap challenge club that exists, and it has for some time. It is a really fun little, challenge thing that you can do every month. There's a different pour and you submit your bars and it's super awesome. And I pay for like the tutorials and for the registration every month. And I always forget to make the soap and submit the soap. Like, I think I've only submitted soap twice in the 5 years that I've been paying for it monthly. And the soap challenge a couple months ago was the tall and skinny shimmy, and it was a re-challenge actually from something that I had seen a few years ago, really. And I saw, the pictures and the announcement that came through the email of, the winners announced and all that jazz. And I went, I didn't do that, and I should try to do it. And so I decided to do that, to do the tall and skinny shimmy with this particular soap, with the Avocado Puree Soap. And there are so many reasons why that was a bad idea, right? Like, yeah. It's a lot, and you're gonna see. But anyway, I am trying to make this look like an avocado when it's been sort of like cut in half, right, and the seed removed. So let's check it out. Okay, so the tall and skinny shimmy, right? So the first thing you need in a tall and skinny shimmy pour is a tall and skinny mold, and I don't have that. Like, I have the molds that Mr. Soap and Clay made for my sized bars, and I don't have anything more narrow. So I thought, oh, it's okay. It'll be fine. And let's go with that. And the second thing that you need for a tall and skinny shimmy pour is a really fluid batter. It is very, very important with a tall and skinny shimmy that you keep your soap batter really fluid. So we are talking literally just at emulsification. You stop mixing and you work from there. Because with this particular soap challenge, if I remember correctly, again, it was a couple months ago, but with this one, I am reasonably sure that like the restrictions were you had to make essentially 24 passes, I think. So 24 different layers in the mold. Now, how you do that with the tall and skinny shimmy is you are going to have your multiple colors, and you're going to do a wall pour at an angle with, in this case, 3 colors. And then you are going to reverse the angle of the mold and pour on the opposite side. And so the idea is you have sort of like big teardrop type things running along the sides of the bar, and all the colors sort of meet up in the middle to create this really, you know, interesting, you know, pattern thing. And again, it's a pour that has some very certain, you know, some very specific requirements that I don't have right now for, you know, 2 reasons. A, I don't have the mold, and 2, I don't have the right batter. And the reason I don't have the right batter is because I am using a fruit puree, an avocado puree for this. And fruits, by nature of the sugars that are in them, they speed up trace really, really quickly. So they're going to always be a very thick, you know, batter. And it's avocado, so then you have the extra fats that are existing within all of that. And so yeah, the first couple passes with this were okay, but very early on the batter got very, very thick, and it was never ever going to be a proper, you know, tall and skinny shimmy. But this is what I did with the first soap, and with the first soap that I made, that again I lost the video footage, and that's terrible, but I'll show you again the end bar at the end of this. It got thick really fast because what I had done is I actually made the puree with the avocado, and I put the puree into the soap batter after it had hit emulsification, and I knew it would thicken it up. I knew it. And I didn't realize exactly just how much it would thicken it up. I thought I had a little bit of time to maybe just get a couple, you know, giant teardrops or whatever into it. And I didn't, and it did not work. So I had to change the entire, you know, direction of the pour on the fly. And what I ultimately ended up doing with that was just sort of glopping everything into the mold, and then taking a hanger to it and, you know, creating some swirls within it. And again, I'll show you that later. But with this one, I thought, let's keep going with the tall and skinny shimmy pour. So again, with each, you know, pass of essentially the 3 colors, I need to rotate the mold and change the direction of the angle, essentially. Now, in order to get this soap, the tall and skinny shimmy, the technique right, it is actually very important that you have a, you know, sort of really precise measurements with each of your colored layers. Right? You can't just eyeball this one. And that's another challenge for me, because I like to eyeball. I'm not so much with keeping the scale out for everything and, you know, precisely measuring everything in. But that is what I'm doing. For this pour, I am measuring out the appropriate amount, so equal amounts of each of the colors into, you know, the beakers for each pour. And you can see as it's getting, you know, thicker and thicker with every pass. And yeah, so that's, you know, the actual tall and skinny shimmy story, and what I'm ultimately working on here, which again, I knew was going to be a fail moving into this. I knew it was not going to work because I did it once and it really didn't work. But I really did want to show you guys another way. I wanted to show myself another way. This is literally the first time I have ever tried to use an avocado puree in ice cube form instead of just putting it directly into the soap batter. And I really did want to see what happens, and I wanted to show you what happens. And at this point, it is a huge question mark as to whether or not this soap itself will even set up, because again, there's the possibility that the lye was not properly, there wasn't enough lye essentially within the entire batch to saponify the amounts that I needed, and it could end up with an overly, you know, super fatted bar that could be very weird. Like, there could be some weird things going on with the soap at the end of it. I'm not seeing anything right now that suggests there will be a weird soap other than, you know, obviously the thickness of it. And I guess that would be like the third problem with a Tall and Skinny Shimmy and my soaps. I only make clay soaps, right? And so I am adding clay into each and every section of this as we, you know, add the scent blend in. And it is, it thickens it up. It thickens up my soaps a lot. So I'm always working at a disadvantage when it comes to, you know, designs. But I love clay soaps. I think they're amazing. So I try to work around, you know, the restrictions essentially. Now, speaking of the scents, this particular guy, it is bergamot and lime and olive, and it smells exactly like a freaking avocado. Like, it is unbelievable. You smell it and you're like, yeah, that's what an avocado should smell like. It's nuts. It is such a, it's such a cool blend. And that's exciting working with this and smelling this as I am, you know, putting all this stuff into the mold, because the rest of this is not super exciting, right? Like, I know that this is not going to be a beautiful Tall and Skinny Shimmy, and that sucks. But the smell is spot on. So as far as like a themed bar, it's cool because it smells exactly like you know would expect an avocado to smell, and the colors are great for an avocado. So you have the outside, you know, you have the skin, and you have like that really dark green, you know, line, and then the lighter green in the middle closer to the pit. And so that's all working. And there's avocado oil within the actual oil blend, the botanical blend. And so that works too, you know, like it is, as far as the themed bar goes, this is definitely on point. The pour itself, it could really mess up the whole theme because, you know, at the end of the day, if the pour sucks, do you really care that there's avocado oil in the avocado bar? I care, but do you? These are questions that are going through my mind as I'm pouring the soap. Now, with this pour, I had worked out 8 3-part turns, so 24 individual pours down the wall. And so there will be 8, you know, essentially kind of giant teardrops from the left to the right, to the, you know, continuing on to hopefully meet up in the middle and form a really cool kind of like, you know, S curve throughout the center of the bar. And so we are getting close to the end of the pouring, which is good because you see how thick the batter has become at this point. There's not even a real way to pour this down the wall. So there's no real way to pour this down the length of the mold down the side. It is really kind of just a gloppy glop, and you are hoping that it kind of pushes the soap batter underneath, because that's going to be one of the reasons that you want the really, you know, fluid batter, the really thin, beautiful batter, is that it will start pushing the batter that's in the mold into the middle, and it sort of builds on itself on each side. And instead of, you know, sinking in, it's a thing, it's a technique, it's a very advanced technique. And I can't believe I showed you this. Like, I feel like I really need to do a proper Tall and Skinny Shimmy at some point to prove to you that I do know how. But to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know that I actually do know how. This is not a pour that I've ever done. The design in and of itself did not interest me until I thought, hey, I want to do an avocado soap for the summer line. Wouldn't it be cool if we could make it look like an avocado using the Tall and Skinny Shimmy? And yes, that would be cool, but it's not going to happen with an actual avocado puree. I don't think. I mean, look at this. It's so thick. I do, however, you know, sort of understand the concept behind a Tall and Skinny Shimmy and the things that you sort of need to achieve, you know, a pour like this. And there are some tips and tricks that you can use to make sure that your batter stays fluid. Again, one is going to be soap just to emulsification. So you need to learn what emulsification looks like in your soaping world and not really go past that, because the batter will continue to thicken up with this process because it's a fairly long pour. I mean, the video itself, right, it's kind of long today, and I cut it down as much as I possibly could and sped it up. and it's still long. The pour itself is, oh, I'd say about 45 minutes. So as that soap is sitting there in its individual containers, it's getting thicker and thicker before you have a chance to actually pour it into the mold. So soaping and emulsification is key. And another way to really keep your batter nice and fluid is to pay attention to your percentage of liquid oils to solid oils. And I like a nice, 60-40 or even a 70-30 for liquid to solid with a pour like this to really ensure that it stays fluid for a long time. And another way to keep your soap batter nice and fluid for a pour like this would be to pay attention to the scent that you're using, because a lot of essential oils accelerate trace, a lot of fragrance oils accelerate trace, and so you want to work with one that will not do that, or even better, will slow trace. And so those are some good tips for you if you want to try the tall and skinny shimmy. But this guy is now done, and we are going to let it set up overnight and see it tomorrow. Oh my god, this cut. Everything is good. So far, so good. It's nice and shiny. It looks very beautiful. It did go through, C-pop, it did go through gel. And it looks beautiful. I like it. There's some interesting texture going on here. I was so nervous to cut into this bar. I had no idea what to expect on the inside. And there it is, all cut up. So let's see what we have. Yeah, that is not a tall and skinny shimmy. That's not it. It looks like like ribosomes, right? Like inside the mitochondria, right? And you have the inner layer and the out. It reminds me of that. So that's cool because chemistry is my thing, and so it's awesome that I can sort of link that to, hey, yay, science. But that's biology anyway. Anyway. Yeah, no, it's not a tall and skinny shimmy, but the bar itself, it looks cool. It really, the function of it is great. Like, there are no issues of concern within this soap. It definitely saponified. It definitely has no lye heavy areas, and it kind of looks like camo, and so that's not bad. Look, it's CAMOCADO, right? Now, there's the first one that I did that I had to take a hanger to. And yeah, you kind of let me know which one you like better in the comments below. So there it is, the CAMOCADO, which I actually love. So, it's named and it's in the line. Once it has a name, that's the hardest part. So, done. The soap, it actually smells exactly like you would expect an avocado to smell, which is really awesome. But the design, both of them, that was not what I was going for. Again, I was trying to do the tall and skinny shimmy using conditions that are really not well suited for that pour. And it's cool. You learn some stuff, and I had fun. And ultimately, we ended up with camo soap, and again, CAMOCADO. It's like it was meant to be. So when it's all said and done, hey, it was a fun soaping experience. Thank you so much for being around for another round of 365 days of soap. If you are interested in purchasing the CAMOCADO, you can do so on the website at soapandclay.com. It's part of our summer line. And if you are interested in following me on social media, do the thing. I'm at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you are interested in winning a big old box of soapy love, subscribe to the channel, because we are going to be giving away a giant box of cool stuff as soon as we hit 500 subs. And thank you so much for being here for another round of 365 days of soap, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.